Imagine waking up tomorrow in your bed with your 16 years old again. You retain every single memory, every lesson learned, every mistake etched into your mind. You know exactly which actions will break your heart, which decision will make you lose money, and which words will drive away the people you love. You have an absolute second chance. What would you do differently? Most of us would answer it without hesitation. Everything. You would buy that stock before its price skyrocket. Avoid that toxic partner. Study something completely different. Or spend more time with that family member who is no longer here. Since the dawn of human consciousness, a silent shadow has haunted us regret. That painful feeling of looking back at the past and thinking that if we had taken the left path instead of the right, our current lives would be perfect. But science and philosophy have an uncomfortable answer to this fantasy. If you truly had a second chance, your life most likely wouldn't be perfect. In fact, it could be much more complicated than you imagine. Traveling to the past with your present mind sounds like the ultimate superpower. However, we collide head on with a fundamental rule of the universe the chaos. In systems theory and physics, there is a concept called the butterfly effect. This principle proves that a tiny change at the beginning of a process can drastically alter the final outcome. If you change a single decision at age 16, for instance, choosing not to go to that party where you met a troublesome friend, you alter the entire timeline of your life. By not going to that party, you won't be tired the next day. Because you aren't tired, you will walk faster to school. By walking faster, you will cross the street 3 seconds earlier, and you won't cross paths with the person who years later would give you your first job. The philosopher Soren Kierkegaard said that life can only be understood backwards, but it must be lived forwards. When we fantasize about a second chance, we commit a cognitive error called selection bias. We choose to change the bad things, magically assuming that all good things we build afterward will remain untouched. But the universe does not work like an a la carte menu. If you erase your worst mistakes, you also erase the lesson that made you the person capable of valuing success. The pain of the past is usually the very foundation of your current resilience. Let's talk about real psychology. There is a thoroughly studied phenomenon called the paradox of choice. The more options a human being has, the more anxiety they experience and the less satisfied they feel with the decision they make. In your first life, you made decisions based on ignorance or intuition. You made mistakes, yes, but you could blame enough a lack of experience. Now, in your second chance, you possess knowledge of the future. Every single micro choice becomes a massive psychological burden. If you know which stocks will rise or which careers will be in highest demand, you're no longer deciding freely. You are trapped by the obligation not to fail. If you decide to study something new simply out of curiosity and it goes wrong, the weight of regret will be 10 times greater because you already knew what was going to happen. Psychology shows that people who constantly strive for perfection, so called maximizers, are statistically unhappier than those who accept that a good enough decision is sufficient. A second chance would transform your life into a chessboard where every single move would generate analysis paralysis. You will be so focused on not running your second chance that you would completely forget to live it. So, why does our brain insist on torturing us with the what ifs? Regret is not an evolutionary flaw, it is an educational tool. From a neuroscientific standpoint, regret activates the same brain regions as physical pain. Why? Because the brain needs you to remember the mistake so you do not repeat in the future. It is a survival mechanism. The problem occurs when we get stuck in a mental loop. We believe there is a version of ourselves in some parallel universe who made all the right decisions and is now completely happy. But existential philosophy reminds us that there is no such thing as a life free of suffering. If you had changed your career, you would face different problems, different bosses, and different frustrations. If you had married someone else, you would have discovered different flaws. The illusion of the alternative life is always perfect simply because it does not exist. It is a blank screen where your mind only projects your desires, never the logistical and emotional problems that accompany any reality. If you had a second chance, you would eventually reach the exact point. You would be a human being dealing with the uncertainty of tomorrow because once you exhaust the knowledge of the past that you brought with you, the future will become a blank slate once again. You will be dubbed again, you will make mistakes again, and you will feel regret all over again. The true philosophical revelation is not wishing for a reset, but understanding why you want it. We want a second attempt because we are afraid to accept that time is linear, that opportunities expire, and that we are responsible for our own faults. So you don't need the universe to send you back to being 16. The paradox of a second chance is that you are living it right now. Every morning you wake up is the beginning of that second life you fantasize about so much. You have the knowledge of your mistakes from yesterday, from last week, and from previous years. You have the maturity given to you by the hardships of the past. The question is no longer what would you do if you could change your past. The only question that truly matters is what are you going to do today with the rest of your one and only life?